Alright, so in our textbook we have this nice table here. It does give us the definitions. If we forget them, we don't have to go back and solve them again, of our three important angles, 30, 45, and 60, for our three most used trig functions, the sine, the cosine, and the tangent. Alright, so these are going to come up quite a bit, and I imagine they'll start sticking in your brains and you'll start to memorize all of them. What we do want to see here is that these functions, sine of 90 degrees minus theta equals cosine. Sine of 30 is the same as the cosine of 60. Sine of 45 is the same as the cosine of 45, because 45 and 45 add up to 90. 30 and 60 add up to 90. So anytime you have, let's say we did sine of 10, that would be the same as the cosine of 80, the opposite angle. And so the ones that match up are sine and cosine, tangent and cotangent, and secant with cosecant for this property. Alright, and then we do have some more identities here. These ones we already know. Cosecant is the flip of sine, secant's the flip of cosine, cotangent's the flip of tangent. We've done that before. We know that tangent is y over x. We know sine is y and cosine is x, so we can substitute in here. Tangent is going to be whatever sine is divided by whatever cosine is, and the flip for cotangent, cosine over sine. And then we have our Pythagorean identities here. Remember, x squared plus y squared equals r squared, the hypotenuse squared. In our unit circle, r is 1. The hypotenuse is 1. So the sine squared, y, plus the cosine squared, x, will add up to the hypotenuse squared, or 1. Okay? And then these formulas here come from substituting into these. So 1 plus tangent squared is secant squared, and 1 plus cotangent squared is cosecant squared. And so we'll use those in the future. And notice that the sine squared is the same thing as saying sine theta squared. So we just write the 2 in here when we're saying sine squared. It doesn't mean anything different. Okay? The one thing I guess we do want to make clear here is that we're not squaring the angle, we're squaring the answer, what we get once we do the sine. Alright, so let's figure this out then. We're going to figure out what cosine and tangent are if we know what sine is. So there's a few different ways to solve this. The way I like to do it is think about this in terms of the right triangle of theta. We know that sine is 0.6. We also know that sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So I know that the opposite is going to be 0.6 over 1. Okay? Or, to make it easy on ourselves, let's call it 6 over 10. Then we don't have to deal with any decimals. 6 over 10 is 0.6. We need all three sides of the triangle, so we're going to use Pythagorean theorem. 6 squared plus x squared, we'll call this x down here, equals 10 squared. 36 plus x squared is 100. X squared is 64. So x down here is 8. We've got all three sides, so now we can figure out the cosine, which is adjacent over hypotenuse, which is 8 over 10, which is 0.8. And we can figure out tangent, which is opposite over adjacent, so that's going to be 6 over 8, or 0.75. All right? So knowing that, seeing how we set that one up, find the missing side of the triangle, see if you can do it yourself for problem 33. If I tell you the cosine of theta is 1 over 3, can you find the sine, the tangent, the secant, and the cosecant of 90 minus theta? All right, here's our triangle. I'm going to put theta there. Could put theta on the opposite corner. Doesn't matter because we're going to figure out our sides based on wherever we put the angle. So cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and we're told it's 1 over 3. So the adjacent side's 1. The hypotenuse is 3, which means that our missing side, y, must be must be square root of 8. 3 squared is 9. 1 squared is 1. Subtract them. You're going to get 8 equals y squared. So 8 for the opposite side. So right away we know that the, sorry, forgot to put the square root of 8. We know that the sine is opposite over hypotenuse, root 8 over 3. Secant is the flip of cosine. We can do that without the triangle. Flip of 1/3 is 3. Tangent is opposite over adjacent, root 8. And the cosecant of 90 minus theta means go up into the opposite angle over here. This is 90 minus theta. And just do cosecant of that angle. So cosecant is 1 over the sine. So that instead of opposite over hypotenuse, it's hypotenuse over opposite. The hypotenuse is 3. And the opposite side of this angle up here is 1. So it's just going to be 3. All right. Let's try this one more time with another example. We're going to say the tangent is 3. So we're going to make ourselves a triangle. Right angle there, theta here. Tangent is 3. I'm going to put a 1 underneath it so I can match it up with a fraction of opposite over adjacent. Opposite is 3. Adjacent is 1. That means the hypotenuse, plus equals, is going to be the square root of 10. Okay, so we can figure out the cotangent and the secant. Cotangent, didn't even need to draw the triangle actually because it's the flip of tangent. It's the flip of 3 over 1, so it becomes 1 over 3. But the secant, the triangle, is going to help us out here. Secant is the flip of cosine, so instead of adjacent over hypotenuse, it's hypotenuse over adjacent. The hypotenuse is root 10. The adjacent side is 1. So our secant is root 10. See if you can do one on your own. Problem 35. All right. We'll draw our angle, theta, label our sides. Cotangent is adjacent over hypotenuse. Over opposite. 5 over 1. So we'll have 5 here and a 1 here. And this will be 25 plus 1 is square root of 26. Pythagorean theorem to get 26 there. All right, so let's do the tangent. The tangent is going to be the flip of cotangent, 1/5. Can do that pretty quickly. The cosecant is the flip of sine. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so this is hypotenuse over opposite. So root 26 over 1, or just root 26. The cotangent of 90 minus alpha, which is the theta in this case, just 90 minus the angle. Cotangent is tangent of the other angle. So we actually already have it. It's going to be 1/5. But to prove it to ourselves, if we go to this angle, the adjacent is 1, and the opposite is 5. Notice that the cotangent of 90 minus alpha, 1/5, is the same thing as tangent of the other angle. They match up. And then cosine is going to be adjacent over hypotenuse. Can't leave it like that. So let's multiply top and bottom. We'll get 5 root 26 over 26.